Stacey Haney, stood up at the Morgantown, West Virginia airport, and she told the story that was really the beginning of this mystery. She knew that she and her kids had benzene and toluene in their bodies. She knew that they had arsenic, they'd been exposed to arsenic. She had found that a quarter of a mile from their home there was a massive waste pond, an industrial waste pond, but that's all she knew. And so afterwards, and she was really nervous to speak out. She was really nervous because at the time, she thought her water was contaminated. And the gas company who owned the pond was supplying her drinking water. And she was afraid that if she spoke out publicly, they would retaliate and take the water away. So when I approached her after this meeting, the idea that I didn't have to write something the next day for the New York Times. Like I could just go hang out with her, and she and I could talk about her story. I think that was appealing. I think that made her feel safe, and that's why she decided to talk to me.
And one of the things for me that you do so beautifully in this book is you see the journey that she takes. I mean, she's initially, so a little backstory, she lives on a farmhouse in rural Pennsylvania right near these two towns, and up on the hill is where they're doing the fracking, which is an incredibly toxic process, and they've got a huge retaining pond that clearly is, well, not clearly, but eventually is clear, is leaking and overflowing. But she's, as you heard in that excerpt that Eliza read, her son is facing all these medical issues, and yet she's getting a lot of pushback in the town because the thing about fracking, of course, is it's brought all this money into this community. And one of the things that's so striking, whether intentional or not, is that one of the things that happens is it completely fractures this community, these people who were lifelong neighbors.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so this area, so I would say what really interests me about this area is how over a century the rural Americans who live here have paid the energy costs of urban Americans, beginning with coal. This is a big coal mining area. Prosperity, the nearby town. So her family began in Prosperity and then moved to Amity. And those two towns are just 10 miles apart. Prosperity has all been, the word is undermined. The industrial coal mining has come underneath it, and many of the farms of people who live there, they've lost their access to water. And so what happens is the coal company buys up a farm, and they pay a lot of money. They pay more than you might pay for that farm, and lots of people love it. They call it the long wall lottery because it's a particular kind of mining, and it allows them to leave these farms behind. Some people don't like it. So you have this process because they lose everything. So you have this long-standing process of what is the cost that extractive industry is going to take from us. And the reason that fracking promised to be different is that finally people were going to make substantial amounts of money off signing mineral leases. And these are incredibly sophisticated people. And that's one thing I really hope the book does, is restore the sophistication and intelligence of rural Americans, because these guys know what they were signing and why. And they saw these deals and said, you know what? I need a new roof on my barn, or I'm going to lose this farm entirely. And so some of her neighbors, particularly larger landowners, made a lot of money, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on this process, when those who tended to be poorer and have smaller chunks of land from the beginning made less. And so yes, this has definitely divided communities and turned neighbors against one another really for the first time in a very long time.
Yeah.